Great. Well, hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. I'm Joe Ferraro. I am the CEO here at Hypothesis and super excited and honored to spend a little bit of time with you during your busy day. Talk about how social annotation can increase student engagement with course materials. So we've got a pretty full agenda for the next 30 minutes or so. We're going to cover a few things. First, tell you a little bit about Hypothesis and who we are, talk more about the power of social annotation. Then we'll dive into a demo of the product itself, talk about some success stories from some other schools across North America, talk about the different ways that folks can access Hypothesis for their courses and benefits of subscription. And then we'll wrap it up with Q&A. We are going to be using the Q&A functionality here in Zoom. So it's as simple as clicking the Q&A button. I will get the questions as you type them out. And if it's something I can answer in real time, I'll be happy to do that. My goal is to get to all the questions before the end of this call. And we will send a recording so you can share it with anybody that may not have been able to join us. But so, yeah, thanks again for taking some time and happy summer. Most of you are probably looking forward to a little bit of a break over the next few months. But just to really kick it off and tell you a little bit about Hypothesis, we are the market leader in social annotation and peer learning. But we have a really interesting story. We were actually founded about 12 years ago now as a nonprofit. So our founder, Dan Whaley, was looking to really solve what could be called one of the fundamental problems on the internet. You talk about things in a different place than where you read them, and especially in the content. And so for the first 8 years, we focused as a nonprofit, really identifying the core technologies that can empower an annotation layer across the web. In 2019, the annotation was actually recognized by the W3C as a unit of speech and can be available on any page across the web. That's also when we launched our company, Anno, the Public Benefit Corp. So at this point, our product is Hypothesis. That's what you're all here to learn about. And that's just a little bit about our corporate background. But we're a really diverse team. We've got about 25 employees from 9 different time zones. And especially our education team has combined over 150 years of education exposure. So we are folks that are really passionate about what we do and really wanted to make sure that interoperability and communication were the #1 priority. We spent over a decade trying to solve this problem, and we're really excited to show you how it's impacting, particularly education, where the segmentation of the different types of information you might be sharing with your students can be a bit tricky to navigate. So we work with a large variety of colleges and universities around the globe, whether you're a large public institution, a large private institution, smaller private, regional college or university, or community colleges. There's a fundamental challenge, and that is students aren't doing the reading, and when they do, it's hard to find places for students to collaborate, and that's really what we want to focus on. At this point, we work with more than 350 colleges and universities in the US and Canada. Over 2 million students have actually annotated over 2 million different types of content sources. And actually, at the end of this semester, we're expecting to be closer to 70 million annotations. So just wrapping up those numbers now. This is a big number. These are individual student interactions with course material that ostensibly may not have occurred if Hypothesis hadn't opened up that annotation layer. And it can really solve a lot of big challenges. And there are a few things that we really see as challenges in today's learning landscape. First is students have a bit of an expectation that learning is going to be a bit more dynamic, and your traditional reading isn't always that. And we see a lot of folks working with really in-depth discussion groups, discussion boards. The Hypothesis allows students and faculty to really take those static documents and have dynamic, insightful conversations directly in the margins of the page. And you can do that with any type of course content, whether that's textbooks through inclusive access programs via VitalSource, resources coming from your library like JSTOR, OER, any website that you can access on the internet, and of course, any PDFs or resources that you've been using in your course before now. You can actually annotate across all of those directly in your learning management system. One of the beauties of social annotation and Hypothesis in particular is it lives within your LMS. So there's no separate login, there's no separate place to go. You can really just drive course effectiveness and student outcomes by allowing them to have conversations directly over the content in the class, right where they would be spending their time, and that is in your LMS. And once this is activated, you're going to see it really just fosters critical thinking and knowledge sharing in a way that you probably haven't seen before in courses. And you can really annotate anything, whether that's publicly available web materials, so any website, any PDF that you can find on the web. You can also use your own personal documents, so things stored within your LMS. You can see Canvas files, for example, here. We do support all the major LMSs: Canvas, Brightspace C2L, Moodle, Sakai, and Blackboard can all use Hypothesis and really give students access to annotate directly on the documents. It also allows you to use any documents that you've stored, whether it's in your LMS, as I mentioned, or things you have on your personal Google or OneDrives. This academic year, we rolled out video annotation, which has been our fastest adopted feature in the history of the company. You can annotate any video on YouTube that's available with a transcript and allows students to have a conversation right in the margins of that video. We're also expanding our video surfaces, recently rolling out Canvas Studio and working with a few other partners to adopt more as we get towards the second half of this year. In addition, you can annotate any publisher material on VitalSource Bookshelf as a Hypothesis customer. So that's any course material that comes through your inclusive or equitable access programs, as well as things that students may buy separately from the bookstore. If it's facilitated by VitalSource and you have access to Hypothesis, you can annotate that, as well as our partnership with JSTOR, millions of scholarly content articles and resources and open education resources, as well as OER material. We work with a variety of different publishers, including Pressbooks, to really open up the number of places that your students can have conversations. It's our belief that we don't want to limit the conversations just to the content that we suggest, but you as the instructor has the opportunity to make that decision. And so now let me dive in and I'll show you how it works, because it really is as simple as 1, 2, 3. You select your documentation, you annotate, you have those discussions, and then you and your students can discover different insights throughout the course. So for today, we're going to use a Canvas demo environment, but as I mentioned, we do support all of the major LMSs, and I want to show a few different examples of the assignments themselves. The first is a PDF annotation, and so this is for an open education resource. Just a moment, I got timed out. And so this is actually for a calculus course. And this might not be the type of place where you think of annotations as being important, but I can tell you when I studied calculus, I had no idea what was going on. And I think most of the students in the class felt the same way. So students are able to take a look at any type of document that you load into the Hypothesis reader, and they can do a few things. First, you'll notice that we have a variety of annotations already in the margin of the page. You can see highlights that some of our students and faculty have created. And so you can toggle that on or off as soon as you drop into the assignment. I prefer to toggle it off when I do my first read, so I know what I want to focus on and not so much what other folks want to focus on. As you are going through the reading, it is as simple as highlighting the text, and then you can choose to either annotate, which allows you to create a public annotation for anyone in your course section to see, and that will get posted to your specific group. Or you can create a private annotation. That's for more personal note-taking if you want to come back and reference something elsewhere. Students can also highlight without an annotation, and those are private to the student. So if they're taking notes, if you're working on a large research project, not everything has to be public, but we see majority of the interactions will actually happen directly in the margin of the page. Something else that's really important to note is there are different types of ways you can annotate. So it's not just simple text like public. We can see here that our demo instructor actually used LaTeX language to actually build a calculation directly in the annotation. And so with this, it's really understanding first, what is section 2 really focused on? We're drawing this graph here. As the instructor, they can actually drop in what the calculation is to understand the tangent line, and then students will walk through and talk about the things that they've actually done to create that graph. And you can see this happen across the entire document. These conversations are threaded, which means that students can actually talk to one another directly in the margins of the page. And what you'll see, especially as you pick up Hypothesis and your students get comfortable with it, is students are going to start helping themselves answer questions faster than you can get to it. And they're really going to start to learn together. And so it really does open up the opportunity for a more active, visible, and social learning experience. And so this can actually happen across a variety of different types of content. So as I mentioned, we had a PDF. You can also use different types of things like OER resources. So here's annotation in a Pressbooks assignment. And so it directly links out to the assignment page where you can actually go through the reading. And so you can see that the students in this specific section are annotating the reading and can only see it in the section that they're in. So if you have multiple course sections reading across the same document, you as the instructor or your TA is only going to see the students in that specific section as you go through the grading piece. And again, it allows students to have these annotations directly in the margin, have these conversations, whether it's answering questions from you as the instructor that are prompted, or asking students to make more organic conversations and start to build a community. It's really up to you. And as the instructor, you can use our page notes feature to really decide what the prompt is for your specific assignment and drive them to have the interactions that you're hoping to. This is also something that is easily embeddable into your gradebook. So if you're already assigning these readings and you're asking students to do specific things, in Canvas, we integrate directly with SpeedGrader, which allows you to flip through and see individual students' assignments if they've created them, and understand how they've done the assignment that you set up for them. So you can see all of the students' annotations directly here in the annotation pane. You've got your SpeedGrader assignment set up here. You can set up your assessment to grade them however you'd like, and then simply add any commentary directly in the margin of the page and submit, and that will sync directly with your gradebook based on what you can see from the student, and it lets you drop from student to student. As I mentioned, one of our most recent rollouts has been video annotation, and this is something we've seen thousands of video assignments created in the last several months and tens of thousands of annotations. And so it allows students to do a variety of things. This is a video that we pulled from YouTube about Black leaders during Reconstruction. You can see you've got the video playing here on the left, and you've got a transcript along the right. Students can actually navigate the video in either way. They can play it straight through, they can read through the transcript, they can also use the search functionality to find specific words that they may be looking for, and it can pull those up and allow them to dive in for further context. But students can have conversations directly over the transcript of the video to understand what are the key observations you have in this video, what's something you've learned. You can link out to additional resources where they can really find some additional context when you think about the content that you're looking at. And it really does drive a variety of different conversations that maybe you wouldn't have if you'd simply assigned, watch this video and have a discussion in the discussion board. We're seeing more and more faculty who are using this to actually record lectures and post them into the LMS afterward, and let students actually have comments asynchronously about things that they've learned. And that can be done either on YouTube, or as I mentioned, if you're a Canvas school and you use it, Canvas Studio is also included with other video sources coming soon. And then we also have a really great partnership with VitalSource. So if your school is an inclusive access or an equitable access school, you're more than likely VitalSource is one of the two providers that your institution works with. Your students get that first day access. With Hypothesis for inclusive access schools, you can actually integrate all of your readings and course material from VitalSource Bookshelf directly into the LMS. For some reason, it's not remembering any of my cookies from being on this, doing this a few minutes ago, so my apologies that I have to keep logging in. And so you can see here is a reading from VitalSource. This is actually, this is an OER resource on VitalSource about the Brown versus Board of Education. It pulls it directly in, and you get the experience you're used to from the VitalSource notebook bookshelf. So you have their reader, the students can use their default prompts. They can get access to the workbook and flashcards and all the other things that you love about that reader, as well as adding this annotation layer so that students can have a conversation with one another as they're working together. And so we did get a question just in the audience right now. You don't need to be a Vital Source subscriber to use Hypothesis, but obviously if your textbooks are coming from there, it's a really great integration. So when you set up Hypothesis, you can cover any type of document that is in front of you, including things from folks like JSTOR. I mean, a lot of our schools have JSTOR subscriptions, and the libraries are trying to find ways to really bring academic reading directly into the course. We allow students to have access to any sort of JSTOR content that your institution subscribes to directly in your LMS without having to go through a reserve system. It's as simple as dropping in the link. Our goal is to allow all of your course material long-term to be as easy to drop in. And this is a great example to show the variety of different types of multimodal annotations students can create. You can also, in addition to text and LaTeX, as I mentioned, embed images, GIFs, audio recordings, anything that you can pull from the web directly into Hypothesis and really allow students to annotate to their heart's content. So those are a few different ways that you can annotate with Hypothesis, but I really want to focus primarily on what the impact is. I mean, we speak to thousands of professors at a variety of different institutions throughout the year, and we hear some pretty common themes. My students aren't engaged and they're not doing the reading. I am having a hard time with, student retention. I want to raise the pass rate on my course. And also, my students really just don't feel like they have the confidence to do what they need to do in the class. And so these case studies are all really powerful because they can help really impact each of those themes. First is just overall student engagement. We did a case study with an introductory physics course at the University of Texas at Austin last year, where we had a control group of students who weren't required to use social annotation, and then a course where Hypothesis was integrated, and they were required to actually speak to one another outside of the discussion board over the book. What we found is that when Hypothesis was integrated in the course, overall student engagement was more than 5 times more than a course that didn't require social annotation. The median number of days that a student accessed the book in a non-Hypothesis course was 7 over the full 14-week semester, whereas with Hypothesis included in the course as one of the requirements, we saw that increase to 36 days. And that is just one indicator that shows students are going to be more prepared. And we heard that from the faculty. Students really understood the basics in what can be a pretty challenging course for intro physics. And they were ready to take that step ahead and dive into more deep learning, which is going to prepare them for the next course in the sequence and keep students moving. We also have seen that, especially in some of the more text-heavy or even technical types of courses, that students have a harder time understanding the concepts that are in front of them. This is a case study that we've written with one of our partners at an R1 institution in the Midwest that focused on undergraduate pharmacy courses. And Hypothesis was included in what they called reading groups. Specific readings about pharmacy and pharmacology were included every week, and students would complete their annotations over the course of the week. And then on Fridays in lecture would actually have conversations about their findings and their annotations in person. At the end of the semester, the faculty member at this institution, Dr. Denton, found that this helps students not just model the authentic experience of a research scientist, where you're going to do your research here and compare notes with someone next, but it actually had improvements in terms of a PIT survey, so the persistence in the sciences overall. Students were more likely to persist in pharmacy after working together because they realized that they weren't the only ones that hadn't seen some of this material before. And I think especially for first generation students and underrepresented populations in STEM, that is a big challenge that we see. Allowing students to read together can really uncover the fact that not everybody knows everything, and it's okay to not know something. It allows students to have these organic conversations and learn together, which is what we're all trying to do. And then we've also seen that Hypothesis can have a really strong impact on grades as well as overall retention. And this is a case study that we're really excited about. This actually took place at 2 different institutions on 2 different coasts. Kingsborough Community College in New York and Cerritos College in California. And we wanted to focus on how can Hypothesis improve grades in first-year courses and how can Hypothesis improve retention in first-year courses. In first year biology courses at our partner Kingsborough, what they found was incorporating hypothesis actually increased overall grades by about 18%. But what was most impactful was the number of students that were getting an A plus in the intro biology course. We saw that go from, somewhere between 8 and 10% before hypothesis, depending on the semester, to anywhere between 24 and 30%, which means that you were able to almost triple the number of students that got a perfect score in the class just by allowing them to have some more of those conversations. At Cerritos College, this was actually an intro drama course where the instructor found that more than a third of students were actually dropping out before the ad drop date, and only 63% of students were actually completing the course. And once they added hypothesis and allowed students to have conversations over the scripts, over the different things that they'd be working on, it drove a much more engaging experience, and she saw 95% completion rate in the course. And so hypothesis can really help you do a few things. Our core value is that we can allow students to annotate directly on the source material and have those conversations where it feels most comfortable and most organic, not in the discussion boards. Students are actually able to reference the reading and find additional passages because they're right in front of them. And that does drive more communication and collaboration in the course. When you put all those things together, it's also really driving students to read more because they don't want to miss out on things that their classmates have said. It's also helping them gain a further understanding in terms of what are the challenges that they're having in the class. And when you tie those things together, there's a really strong correlation between grades and overall retention. And so for our customers, there are a few different ways that you can get access. First is our first day access. At your institution, it could be called inclusive access. It could be called equitable access. Currently, it's facilitated by VitalSource, Verba, or Collect, if that's the word that you're familiar with. And so this allows single course integration seamlessly. There's no investment or agreement required from your campus. This is a connection that goes directly through, and faculty do get access to direct course reporting to understand the annotations, overall engagement, and then of course it ties with your grades, so you can pull that into your final result. And so this can really support the inclusive or equitable access programs at your institution and continue to drive value in all the course materials that you have. For other institutions, we do offer usage-based or enterprise, where you can either purchase by seat and control the number of users at a course or department level, or you can focus on an enterprise license, which would give you access to every FTE on the campus. We do support all of these things, and it's really up to you. Someone on our team is really happy to answer questions after if you'd like us to do that. But especially what we're seeing today, more and more schools are moving toward first day access. You're going to have these materials. It's a great way to drive students to actually use the materials that are being included in tuition by driving the assignments to those readings. You see some really strong results. And as subscribers, you get a lot of support from us. So every institution that uses Hypothesis has a dedicated account manager. Our account management team has background in education and publishing. They're used to hearing about some of the challenges that you may face every day, and they're working with faculty just like you every day. We also do offer custom and more broad-scaled faculty training workshops. We do run what we call partner workshops throughout the semester, focusing on specific LMSs. As I mentioned, we support Canvas, Brightspace T2L, Blackboard, Sakai, and Moodle. And so we have specific days that you can drop into those. And with the subscription, you can also set up more specific webinars for your staff, and you can work with our team to do that. We'll also provide you with usage data and reporting. This fall, we'll actually be rolling out self-service dashboards for instructors, and a lot more to come on that in a few weeks. And then as a subscriber, we also do offer a professional development opportunity for your faculty or for your instructional design teams, and that's Hypothesis Academy. That's a 2-week asynchronous course. We have 2 current workflows. We have Hypothesis 101, which teaches you the basics of social annotation. And then we've got Hypothesis in the age of AI, and talking about how social annotation is a great backstop to students that are using the resources that are available like ChatGPT to do some work, so that you can really understand how can you drive students to still do the reading when something's going to do it for them. So I know we have a few minutes remaining, and there are a couple questions in the Q&A. First one is, are you FERPA compliant? And the answer is yes. So we are FERPA compliant. We have access to our VPAT on our website, and our LMS version of Hypothesis, which lives in the LMS that I showed you, is fully FERPA compliant. We do also offer our web app, which gives you some privacy controls, but if FERPA is your number one concern, the LMS web app is the way to go. We also have another question. I've got a summer course starting in just 2 weeks. Do I have time to get started? And the answer is yes. We've got some really great promotions for new schools, depending whether you are an inclusive or equitable access school or would need to make a license purchase. Could cause a few different things that we have to work on, but we're happy to work with you. And I've got your information just from filling out the Q&A, so I'll make sure someone on the team does does get in touch with you. And then we've got another question. Does my institution have to directly integrate Hypothesis into our Canvas LMS for me to use Hypothesis in my course with VitalSource and more? The answer is yes. To use it with VitalSource, it does need to be integrated into the learning management system. And that's something that our team works with your LMS admin team to do. It's as simple as 3 or 4 clicks. And if it's something you're interested in, we can make sure that that is set up. So Bob, I'll definitely make sure that we follow up with you as well. And so with that, that is actually the last slide I have for you. I know we still do have 3 minutes, so if there are any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. But I do want to thank you for taking some time during your busy day to learn a little bit more about us. And someone from the team will be happy to follow up and share any additional information. We'd love to help you get started for this summer or this fall, and love to see how Hypothesis can transform your courses. With that, we will call it a wrap. And just want to thank everybody again for taking some time. Enjoy the rest of your day.